What's going on, YouTube? This is Cold Mantis, and welcome to part 3 of the Fluval Spec V journal. I can't believe we're finally here. A lot has happened in the first video and the second video. A lot of work was done, a lot of messy work. But you can see with the ADA soil, it's very clear now. Even planting plants, it doesn't kick up any dust, which is what my goal was and why I did the reset of the tank. Now for this scape, I want to keep it simple. I want a contrast of colors between red and green. Nothing too fancy, and I don't want any hardscapes because this tank is already very narrow. It can't be more than 8 inches depth. So if I put any hardscapes, it's just going to take away from the valuable real estate that I don't have in this tank. For the background plant, I decided to use, well, let's see if I can pronounce this correctly, Luigia pilaris, or sometimes it's called Luigia SP Super Red Mini. It's a very nice red plant. One of the reddest I've ever grown, and it's starting to become my favorite background plant. What I did is that I planted one stem first just to gauge what I need to trim it as and prepare it. The only reason I need to do that is because I don't exactly have a lot of stems to select from. My goal is to do 3 rows in the back, but I think I only have enough plants for maybe 1 row and a little bit in the front. For the mid-ground plant, I'm going to use my favorite mid-ground plant for the past maybe 5 years now, which is Blixa japonica. It's a very nice mid-ground plant that divides the background plants and your foreground plants. When it grows, it just kind of grows in a sphere, and it's very bushy, and it's a beautiful, beautiful plant. Luckily, I do have enough Blixa to fill 1 row, which is all I want as a division from the background plant and the foreground plant. Whenever you're doing a tank aquascape, you want to prepare your plants. It's best to do it beforehand and not as you plant, because it'll probably just take you double the time. In front of the Blixa, I'm going to use AR Mini. That way I can get a red background plant, a green mid-ground plant, and a red, I guess, half foreground, half mid-ground plant. It's a very nice plant, and it's very easy to grow. The light I'm using is not exactly a high light, but it is probably a good 35 to almost 40 par of the substrate. So it should allow me, no, I don't want to say it should, I'm pretty sure it will allow me to grow pretty much any foreground plant I choose to. I'm just about finished planting the AR Mini, and I have some Downoid I recently got. I grew this plant a few years ago, and it's a very nice plant. It's a very slow growing plant, but it is very, very nice. Unfortunately, I only have 2 stems, so it's gonna take a very, very long time before I can get a whole row of it. For the foreground, I decided to reuse what I had before in the tank, which is HC Cuba. Now I know this light can grow it, but you know, it's not exactly a highlight, and I really believe that in order for you to grow a nice flat, and that's very important when I say flat, HC Cuba carpet, you need CO2 and at least medium light to almost highlight for it to grow flat. I have a feeling that when this grows, and it will grow, and I'm sure it will spread well, it's going to be probably very bumpy. I'm just preparing the portioning of the HC Cuba, which with whatever I had left over from the previous scape. I'm just making it probably less than 7 decent sized stems each before I plant them. For HC Cuba, I like to plant them at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches apart. I'm just trying to make everything even, so I always try to plant it on the left side, the right side, the middle, and keep going from the middle from that. It's not that I have a lot to work with, but it should be enough to give me a good head start, and I have a feeling it should spread within a month and a half, and fully carpet within either 2 months to 3 months. Just look at that substrate. There is no dust coming out. I haven't seen something like this in years. I'm very glad that I changed out the substrate to ADA Amazonia. Here's a nice top view of the plants. And we're finally here. All the plants are fully planted. Here's a little full tank shot of what it looks like. Now, if you remember from the first video, I did mention that some of the plants did have some algae, predominantly staghorn and blackberry algae. I'm just checking for the amount of algae, which is not that much, but I really don't like algae of any kind. So before I put in any livestock, which I'm not even sure what I'm going to put in, I haven't decided if I want to put maybe some male endlers and put back all the cherry shrimp that I took out. Right now the cherry shrimp is in my breeding tank somewhere else, and I just haven't decided what livestock I want to put in. What I want to do now is have a very clean tank, as free as algae as possible, before I decide on putting back any livestock. There are many ways to treat staghorn and blackberry algae. The most popular method is to spot treat it with hydrogen peroxide, or double dose your tank with Cesium Excel. I personally like doing the natural way. I want to introduce you to Fred. He's my algae eating machine. He will decimate pretty much all staghorn and blackberry algae. This is day 1 of introducing him. This is probably 2-3 days have already passed since the tank was fully planted. I just want to make sure there's no big mini cycle of any kind before I introduced him. I already did all my nitrit, nitrate, and ammonia tests, and everything came out clear. Hopefully in a few days I shouldn't see any staghorn or blackberry algae left, because Fred should be eating all of it. Day 2 is already looking very positive. It's very hard to tell if there's any algae left. Most of the staghorn, the blackberry algae on the blades of the Blixa japonica is pretty much been eaten by Fred. There is a few left, but not much, and it should be taken care of in probably a few more days. I'm actually surprised though, because usually when I have a blackberry algae or staghorn algae in my plants, I would take the plants out and put it in my main display tank. In my main display tank, there is 4 Siamese algae eaters in that tank, and usually it takes no longer than an hour before all visible signs of staghorn or blackberry algae is all eaten up by my Siamese algae eaters. This is the 3rd day, and it's pretty much all gone. This tiny bit on some of the blades on the right side of the tank, but nothing too concerning. This is the 4th day. I'm contemplating about taking Fred out. I think he's pretty much done his job and has eaten as much staghorn and blackberry algae as he can, or at least as he wants to eat. There is a tiny bit left, pretty much in the same spot on the right side of the tank, but it's actually hard to tell in this video, but it is there. It's very hard to spot because it's very tiny. That was the 5th day, and here's Fred chilling on top of some HC Cuba. He looks full, and there's barely any algae left. Actually, I don't think there's any staghorn or blackbeard algae. I'm probably gonna take him out of the tank today. Everything looks clean and clear, and now I just gotta decide what livestock I want to put back in the tank. The 6th day, and Siamese algae eater has been taken out and put back in my main display tank. Thank you for watching part 3 of the Fluval Spec V journal. I might do some more monthly updates in a later time, but this tank is ready for fish.